Hello, my name is Jeannette Valencia, and I'd like to share my experience. Two years ago, I applied for a master in TFL in Universidad de Alcalá in Spain. I also started a summer program in St. George's School in London. I chose these programs because I thought they would help me to improve the skills and qualifications I had acquired at Universidad Católica de Santiago de Guayaquil. And I'm so proud to tell you that it was like that. Right now, I'm studying a PhD in modern languages with a mention in linguistics. I'm also part of a research team in a philology department at Universidad de Alcalá. Discovering I was well prepared and qualified to face the requirements of a European university and a British school was a rewarding experience that allowed me to feel proud of what I had learned in my country. Well, I'm satisfied with the skills we developed at the School of Language. But I think one thing that we could improve, introduce, or stress more is our ability to identify learning theories and studies with their authors. I think this example will help me to illustrate better this point. I had one subject that required me to develop a teaching portfolio, and one section had my teaching philosophy, and I had to include here my own beliefs regarding students' development, teaching and learning. And at that time, I realized I had valuable knowledge, but I could not differentiate between my opinions and others' opinions, and this was really necessary for this project. So I had to revise what I had in my books, in my notes, in order to be aware of who had said what. So I think it's something that we could start working on, not just for a PhD program, but for anything. It doesn't matter if we are going to be presenting a project for the director of our school because we want to start a new methodology, and we need to justify that. But also if we want to present the results of an actual research and we want to publish these results in an article or in a magazine, a journal, it will be very important to start having all these ideas clear in our mind. There's one particular that I really like. It's the ability to be able to give and receive feedback. You know, there are few EFL teachers that feel comfortable during classroom observations or that are capable of providing relevant feedback. And this is a necessary skill because nowadays teachers are sharing experiences. So they need to feel comfortable, to be capable of letting others observe their approach, and then to be able to understand the comments. So I think at the language school there are lots of subjects that allow us to prepare a material and then share it with our classmates and then discuss about it. So I think this skill help us to be more open-minded and at the same time help us to develop our critical thinking skills. Well, that's an interesting question because we could talk about many different things, but I think I would talk about three aspects: the classroom organization, the support during tutorials, and classroom language. Well, let's go to the first point. Something related to classroom organization. I noticed that at Universidad Católica de Santiago de Guayaquil, students will receive a syllabus, a detailed syllabus, with units and their sub-units, and the tutorials, everything was going to be there in the syllabus. Also some references. While at Universidad de Alcalá, we will not receive a syllabus itself, but we will have PDFs. Students will provide us with a set of books, and they will divide those books into the books that we must read for doing the tutorials, and some books that were just optionals if we wanted to improve our knowledge into that topic. And that was interesting. So nowadays I have lots of books, but it was interesting. And regarding the support during tutorials, I felt that we had a more personalized support. Maybe because we were less students, but I felt like teachers were just trying to observe the whole process and the product, of course. While at Alcalá de Henares, we did have tutorials and teachers were really willing to help us, but the time was shorter and we were 30 or 40 students depending on the subject, so that was a difference that I noticed when I came here. And finally, the classroom language. This is very interesting, and it does not depend on the type of program we're doing. But in Ecuador, we share our mother tongue. So at the beginning, it was really hard to start speaking in English. We did not have the need itself, but we had to do it. And at the end of the 4 years, I remember we were just accustomed to speak in English. Even during the free times, we would speak in English. So I strongly recommend that. Coming here to Spain to do this master degree, which was an international program, there were students from different parts of the world. So we had to use English, otherwise we would not understand each other. So English will be the classroom language all the time. But surprisingly, during the free times, it was going to be quite hard to keep on speaking English, especially for certain students. So I think if you acquire this tendency of speaking in English, you should continue. But this is our mother tongue, and I would say yes, but somehow I met you in English, so I must continue into English. I think in both programs, professors were devoted to helping us to become English teachers. But there is a little difference. We have to remember that in my undergraduate studies, I worked at the university for 4 years, while here at Universidad de Alcalá, I just spent 1 year for my graduate studies. So that's why I felt that my teachers at Universidad Católica de Santiago de Guayaquil, they wanted to help us to become proud of and passionate about our choice. So during those years, we had to become really, really in love with the teaching and learning process with a humanistic view. And I'm so glad they did that. While Universidad de Alcalá de Henares, it was a very different process, mainly because we have a short time, as I said before, just 1 year for the master program. So we had that year to become skillful, professional, and we had just those years to become skillful and professional in this area. And I think this is really a remarkable job, since most of my classmates, they not have a teaching background itself. I cannot generalize, but here in Europe, at least the programs I revised, there is not a career similar to ours. So students, they have two choices or two options. They could choose to study the education career, which here in Spain is called Magisterio, and then they can choose the master program to become English teachers, or they could study the linguistics studies, and then they can pursue a graduate study in education. So that's why I think it's really remarkable to see teachers helping these professionals to become great English teachers. Well, I think continuing your studies is always a great idea. I think it is good from an academic point of view, from a teaching and learning point of view, and also from a human point of view. So from an academic point of view, pursuing a graduate study will help us to continue reading and learning about something we felt interested in during the undergraduate studies. So this helps us to become more skillful in our research skills, and we might contribute to the development of knowledge, because during our reading process we might find out something interesting that we can put into action, and those results could be shared in journals, for example. And let me tell you something that is very interesting. Usually master programs, tutorials and projects will ask you to put things into practice in your classrooms and then report about it. So from an academic point of view, it's great. From a teaching and learning point of view, well, it is very rewarding to listen to others' experiences. So when we continue our studies, we will find interesting anecdotes from our professors and colleagues who will be willing to share them with us. And then we can apply it into our classrooms, and we are going to keep on learning. Finally, from a human point of view, we will meet new people, and this is always an awesome opportunity. So I will strongly recommend it. If these studies are going to be pursued abroad, well, then you will meet a new culture, which is also a great experience. What advice? Well, in my humble opinion, I will recommend to reflect on what we are reading, learning, and doing. So I think the purpose of an active learning week is to raise our awareness of the need of sharing good teaching practices. And these teaching practices can only be shared in an academic scenario, which will demand us to be able to acknowledge previous studies, cite some authors. So if we have this ability, we will empower our voice, and we will be able to introduce our proposals in a more academic way. So that would be my advice. Every single thing you are reading and you think, okay, this I can apply in my classroom, I want to see if this works in my own particular setting, and I'm going to try to know if this works or not, but I'm going to register who has said this, because I haven't come up with this idea, and if I have, I also need to include and introduce my proposal in the context of previous authors in order to continue with the dialogue.